Hey friends, thanks for joining me. My name's Dave Miller. Welcome to Leadership Pathway. I know you're watching this because you're concerned either about leadership development in your organization or the next generation or second career people trying to get into ministry and do their best. So whatever the reason you're joining us today, welcome. I want to go over six common mistakes that we've seen organizations, mainly churches, make when trying to launch a residency. We're going to be 9 years old this summer, which seems impossible, summer of 2026. We've started about 190 of these so far. And I don't think we've seen everything yet, of course. Just like in your work, you think you've seen everything, and then you come upon something completely unique. But we do see patterns and we see trends. And I like to joke that the last 150 of these have gone a lot better than the first 50, mainly because of awesome people like all of our coaches and Tirza and Lindsay and Paige and Kristen and all the people that have joined the team who are smart and who get up every day thinking about the churches and the partners we work with and the leaders that they've been entrusted to develop. So we're all about helping churches find young leaders. We're all about supporting their bosses and coaches. We're going to get into some of that later. And then we're all about helping them develop them for a healthy start, helping a young leader start in a place that's healthy for the long haul. One of the cliches we talk about a lot, if you can get to year 3 in ministry, maybe you'll get to year 7 in ministry. And if you've been around local church ministry for very long, once you get to year 7, you're in that elite group. You're a veteran leader at the ripe age of 30 out there leading people, building teams, doing ministry, and shepherding in the local church. So we're all about helping churches do that. But along the way, we do see common mistakes. That's what we're going to talk about today. We've written a book about it. It's called Who's the Next You? You would think I would have a copy I could hold up here, but I don't. I gave mine away this week. I'm on the road. I gave my last copy away out of my backpack, but I'll put the link below. Be sure to pick that up and read it if you haven't. So let's get into it. Six things, kick this around the team. What are things that we've consistently seen, little mistakes? We made them early on. We see organizations have made them. One of the things I've been saying to church leaders, since we've done a few of these now, man, if you just avoid the potholes that we've all already hit, right? It's like don't do what we did back then. Uh, it will help organizations as they start. So here's the six things in no certain order. Number one is not most important. Number six is not least important. But these are the six that we came up with, and I want to share them with you. Each one of these, I could probably talk for an hour on each one of these. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to try to get through these six, and then maybe you'll have a question or a comment you can leave below or reach out, of course, anytime. My contact is right there. You can find me. Okay, number one. Number one of the six common mistakes that we've seen that you can avoid. You can avoid this one. Number one is never getting started. This is by far, I think, the most common mistake. We meet churches, we talk, and whether that's in a webinar like you're watching or it's live like it was this week, I was in Cedarville University. It was minus 12, a room full of leaders sitting there a couple of hours talking about how to develop and how to hang on to young leaders. And it was electric in the room. It's always an electric conversation. A Zoom call in the room, a meeting, a luncheon, a dinner, whatever it is. And then 6 months later, the church is still talking about it. 18 months later, they're still talking about it. Let me share something with you. There's always going to be more reasons to not start a residency than there is to start a residency. There's one reason to start a residency program at your organization. We work with churches of 100 and some of the largest that you've heard of. There's one reason to start a residency, and that's because you're going to need a young leader in the future. So these churches I talk to, and I'm compassionate, I'm empathetic towards them. I know you have these conversations, and then you go in on a Monday or a Tuesday, and 147 things are coming at you, and a week goes by, and then you repeat that 20 times, and you never get going. You never start. But those same organizations then call me and say, you won't believe it. Our kids' pastor's spouse is getting transferred across the country, or our youth pastor has decided to plant a church and just told us he's going to be leaving in about 90 days or 6 months. This cyclical process of thinking about it, not thinking about it, thinking about it, not doing it, not doing it, and then you need something. I will tell you the number of times that I have the conversation, and then we back and forth for 9 months. Hey, just checking in. Are we ready to go? Oh, this is a busy month. This is a busy 6 months. Maybe next budget cycle. And then a conversation of, oh no, a staff leader has left. Do you know anybody? Do you know anybody that wants to move here and be a student pastor? Again, with great compassion and empathy, but I think, dang it, we've been talking about this for a year, for 3 years sometimes. Someone could have been standing there. Someone could have been standing there. The investment to make that happen pales in comparison to the cost of going without a kids or student pastor or a key leader, a worship leader, a production director, a guest services person. Okay, so mistake number one, never starting. Mistake number two is poor onboarding. The first 30 days, 90 days, the first week, month, first 90 days. In our onboarding material, we talk about that rhythm. We talk about how to have a spectacular first day or first week. I'm thinking of the young leader who moved to, I think it was Southern Illinois, now that I'm thinking about it. Great church, small town though, but a great church, a multi-site church. He and his young wife, they were newly married, fresh out of school, drove cross country. They land there in Southern Illinois for this residency. No one was there to unload the truck with them. Now, you and I, people who've done this a while, we're a little older. Hopefully, we're paying a mover to do it for us sometimes. That would be not nice, right? For a new employer to not roll out the carpet and have 25 people there with food and a cooler of Diet Coke and have some fun and set the beds up and hang the ceiling fans and clean the place and make sure that they were welcomed. It would be not nice, but to a young leader, that would be unnerving if you think about it. They're nervous. It's their first big job. It's their first big move. No one is there to welcome them. You have to make the first day a party. You have to make sure the first week is lined out to where they're getting integrated into your culture. They know people the first month, 90 days. Now, understanding your resident, understanding them. This is one thing that we do through the interview process, personality test, whatever personality test that you love. If you're an Enneagram, Strength Finders, DISC, Genius, or Thinking Wave, whatever it is, it doesn't matter to us. We'll get to know it with you. But understanding your resident. If your resident's a little more introverted, if they score on those tests that they need a lot of downtime to recharge after being with people, do not fill up the first week every night of the week with parties, right? Do not schedule them every waking moment. So understanding your resident will help you have a great first day, a great first week, month, and 90 days. Really, 90 days is sort of the warm up 90 days, the warm up 3 months. What should that look like? We have to give thought to it. We help churches do this with our onboarding material. Of course, there's all kinds of thoughts out there about what it means to have a great onboarding process. Okay, that's mistake number two. Mistake number three. It sort of it sort of sounds like it's the opposite of number two, but it isn't. But it's letting the honeymoon go too long. If you've gotten married, most of us take a honeymoon and we're gone for a week, sometimes 10 days or 2 weeks, depends on how old you are and how much money you have. But honeymoon period is a great period of just, there's no expectations at all. Everything is grace. Everything is showing this person the ropes and where all the things are. But eventually, honeymoon phase has to end, doesn't it? I think I've heard some stories of super wealthy people that go on a year-long honeymoon sailing around the world, but most of us, it's a very defined time. We come back, we unpack, and then what do we do? We do laundry. We start doing laundry, we start cleaning, we start showing up to work the next morning, and the honeymoon phase kind of ramps down into real life. It's true. This is true at in our workplaces. It's true in our churches, in our organizations, and it's especially true eventually if this is your first role, you have to be led through that rhythm of when should the honeymoon end and when does real life begin. Eventually cracks will begin to show, especially if you're doing it well. Especially if you're doing it well. When we're hearing into the third month, oh, the resident's great. She's doing amazing. This is so fun. She's so good. Our coaches are saying, how do you know? Have you opened the material? Have you put this resident under any sort of stressors yet to teach them how to fail in a healthy way and bounce back? We would say in the first 90 days of this residency, you have to get to where you feel the weight of ministry. What's the weight of ministry? It's not necessarily just showing up at the hospital to visit someone that you were assigned. That's important. The weight of ministry, from my perspective, is I'm driving, I'm going somewhere. And if my volunteers don't show up, I'm in trouble. If you've been around church for a while and you're watching this, you and I know what it takes to get 5 people on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m. to unload the trailer, or 7 people in the parking lot at 8:15 in the cold to park the cars, or 27 leaders on a Wednesday night for youth group, 6 people in the band, 4 people to usher and greet at the 11 a.m. service. How do we get them? We have to build a relationship with them. We have to talk to them. We have to schedule them. We have to remind them. We have to thank them when they're there so they'll show up the next time we ask them. You and I know that rhythm. You and I know that. The weight of ministry, we have to get there in that third month window at some point. Again, getting as close as you can get. Proximity is key here. Understanding your new young leader will help you determine how much weight, and how fast should we get there. But we have to get there. The honeymoon has to end. If not, your expectation management down the road is going to get a lot harder. So understand you. What are you typically saying to people? Are you letting them off the hook or not? Understand, are you the person that excuses everything and doesn't hold? Understand you, understand your resident, and then get the honeymoon closed out and get on with life. Okay, mistake number four. This is a big one. There are multiple roles for a coach. Ignoring multiple roles in a resident's life is a key mistake. Now, in our books, in our training material, in our coaching, we talk about 2 roles. We talk about a supervisor and a coach. Everybody needs a boss and everybody needs a coach on the ground with them. And people will say, is that 2 people? Doesn't matter to us. We work in places where there is one person coming to our monthly coaching with them. We work in other places where churches have sent 4 or 5 people to these monthly coaching sessions with us. There's the coach, there's the supervisor, there's the spiritual mentor, papa person. There's the personal skill. The host home person wants to sit in on these meetings. It doesn't matter to us. The more the merrier. But ignoring all of the roles in our young leader's life is a huge mistake. Treating this young leader like they're 32 and they've been in ministry or been working for a decade, huge mistake. If I walked into your organization and started, show me where a couple things are, and I know the goal and I know the direction to go, I'm a self-starter, I'm going to be fine. But a young leader in a true young leader in their first real role is going to need a team. Takes a village, so to speak. For sure, it takes two roles. When we ignore that 6 or 7 months in, a pastor will be saying, "Man, I feel like I'm parenting. I feel like I'm parenting this person." And we'll say, "Yeah, yeah, you might. It might feel like that. That's kind of comes with the job." Okay, Dr. Tim Elmore, who has a great book called "It Starts with Z." I think it's his latest book. One of his quotes that I has made a lot of sense to us that we fall back on. In today's world, when we're hiring Gen Z onto our team, there is no management without mentorship. Now, it is true, this generation, we're learning a lot from them about boundaries on our between work and our personal life. But really, once they trust you, once you build this relationship, those lines between work and personal get a little blurry. You'll find yourself speaking into every area of their life, their education, their spiritual formation, soft skill stuff, which is what our curriculum is based around, their mental wellness. What are they learning? The actual job skills, right? And we have to own that at the highest level, which brings me to mistake number 5. When we own it at a high level, the mistake that we see is quitting too soon. Now, immediately, if I just read quitting too soon, I would assume we're talking about the young leader quitting. And that's true as well. I remember in my young 20s, a boss that meant the world to me, I said, "What do you think is the number one thing that upends ministry?" And he said, "People quitting too soon." And then, sure enough, it wasn't much longer till I quit on him. I don't think I was listening. I only remember that in hindsight. Ownership is one of the 7 ingredients. I'll put a link to that below. It's one of the 7 ingredients that we're always assessing for when it comes to doing a residency with a young leader. Why is that? Because church leader, those of us that start stuff and lead things, we tend to be vision oriented, right? On these personality tests, we tend to be the people who have the mission and the vision, and we're saying this way, and people follow, and we run on that energy. Coaching a resident every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, you show up for a one-on-one, and it's electric the first time or the first 6 times or the first 3 times you do it. But eventually it's like, wow, we're talking about it again. This feels repetitious to me. I'm saying it again to them. I'm saying it again. We talked about this the first month, and I'm talking about this the 6th month. It's wearing me out. We hear leaders make this mistake a lot. So as the leader, you have to look around your staff or your team. If it's a church of 100, you're looking at your volunteer corps. If it's a church of 1,200, you're looking at your 8 leaders thinking who should get a resident. Sometimes it's not the most excited person in the room to get the resident. You look around your team and you've got some vision people who have crazy ideas and maybe 10% of them happen. And you've got some more introverted, repetitive task kind of people, right? It takes all kinds on you. Sometimes the people that are a little more low key, that have proven they can build teams, do the same thing every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, build a ministry slowly, incrementally. Sometimes they make the best coaches. Not always, of course, but sometimes. Think about should get uh, who should get the resident first, okay? Okay, number 6. Number six, the sixth most common mistake we see is confusing your story with universal truth. Here's what I mean by that. We all have a story. If I asked you, how did you get from high school to where you are today? You're 35 to 52 years old. You're leading something in an organization. How'd you get there? And you start telling me a story. This was the kind of person I was in high school. This is the person that said something to me that lit me up. And then I went over there to school and I did some, and then I transferred over there and then I tripped and fell and it was crazy for a couple of years. And then this person picked me up and there you are. That is your God thumbprint story of leadership in your life. I have a friend who went to jail for a decade, federal prison on a drug charge, found Jesus, got his education, came out, planted a church. That's his story. That is not the preferred path to being a 33-year-old church leader, right? All of us have a story. When you interview 2 or 3 thousand people the last couple of decades, like we have on staffing and residency, you begin to see trends, though. You begin to see trends. That's why I talked about the first day, the onboarding, the 90-day thing, feeling the way to ministry, a 1 year assessment, getting to the second year. We talk about that trend. There's almost always a quit moment and I'm going to fire you moment in the first 9 months of these almost always there's a moment like that. If it's going well, you're going to have that moment because they're under enough stress and enough difficulty, they want to quit. And we get to coach them through that, right? They're learning some grit. They're learning some perseverance. If you never had a moment like that, that's not universal truth. Most of us have quit or get fired moments in the first 9 months. We begin to see trends. This is why we do a 1 year assessment at the end of that first year to lay out what do we need to get after the second year? What are the goals we need to get done in the second year? We see trends. We see after you talk to a few thousand people, you see some crazy, miraculous part the Red Sea kind of things. But generally speaking, here's what God is doing on average. Generally speaking, in this context, this year, in our country, in your state, in your town, generally speaking, these are the trends. We can't mistake our own unique story for what's normal, right? We're always shooting down the middle. Like what are we going to predict based on our interviews and our deep dive with their personality test and what their references have said to us and what do we predict you're going to be up against in the first quarter, into the first year, into the second year? What are we predicting? It's based on all of this, both data and talking over the last 9 years. We all have a story, and then sometimes we get perspective. Trust the perspective. Trust the perspective. If God wants to part the Red Sea and do a miracle, he could do that. Of course he can do that. I've seen it a couple times actually. But a few thousand times, I've seen how this plays out in a young leader. Okay. While I'm thinking about it, bonus numbers, I'm going to give you 7. I said I was going to give you 6. Here's the 7th. The 7th is setting expectations too high, too early. If there's one thing we've seen emerge the last couple of years is that most residents are already more talented. They're camera ready, they're stage ready, platform ready. If they're a worship person, they're pretty talented to be 22 years old, way more talented than we were in my generation. It's cultural, right? They have all of this amazing tools, powerful digital tools at their fingertips to help them write their messages, write their Bible studies, get up there. They've been watching people at a high level preach and teach and do things. And so it tricks us. It tricks us. They're ready. They're ready. We start believing they can meet all of the challenges of ministry at too high of a level too soon. And if we're not careful, we set the expectations too high. We take our eye off the ball, and we will be disappointed. How many times have I found myself saying to someone, "Hey, hey, pump the brakes. I know he's amazing. He should not be your senior pastor. He's only 2 months in. Don't throw him out of campus, 2 hours away. She's not quite ready yet to preach on stage at the church on Sunday morning yet. Just work the process. Work the process. Expect some failure, expect some difficulty along the way. If you're doing it well, you're gonna have some failure and difficulty, right? Okay. All right, so that was as fast as I could do the six most common mistakes. Uh, Mistake number one, never getting started. So get started. Mistake number two, poor onboarding. Mistake number three, letting the honeymoon go too long. Number four, ignoring all of the roles that a resident needs in their life. Number five, quitting too soon on them. And number six, confusing my own personal story with universal truth. I don't know if these have been helpful for you. I hope they have been. Shoot me a line. Let me know. Put a comment below. Is there one I missed of those six plus the one bonus? Is there something I haven't experienced that maybe you have? And we'll be learning from each other. And we always do. We always learn from each other when we get into these conversations. So, leadershippathway.org, if we can help you at all, click below and grab that PDF and let's talk soon. Okay. Rooting for you to launch a ministry, to launch a residency within your ministry and get to developing leaders because you really have to answer the question, who's coming behind you? Who's the next you? All right. Take care.